If you're watching this, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you. I aim to educate and entertain because we're going to be talking about how to fast for 10% body fat. So, what is intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting is basically just going a period of time. It's not starving yourself or anything like that. It's just going a period of time without eating, right? Being structured, being intentional, and it's something that I've used for years, right? After I graduated pharmacy school, I got really into intermittent fasting. I got really into doing, specific exercises. So I'm not like working out all the time, because before I was doing P90X, I was doing insanity. I was jumping around in my apartment. I was burning fat, but I wasn't building muscle. And, as somebody that really struggled with consistency and had a busy schedule, I was really trying to get the most bang for my buck for, burning fat and building muscle, because I really didn't have a clue about what I was doing. And, once I learned about the metabolic and the health benefits, longevity benefits of intermittent fasting, that's when I started incorporating it. That's when I started incorporating it into my routine. And so that's what I aim to do here, is just educate. So basically, the big thing for intermittent fasting and why it helps with longevity is it helps to stimulate your mitochondria. It helps to clean up cellular junk. It gets your body from energy storage mode, right? Because your insulin is high, because you're eating all the time, and your body's like, oh, I got this energy in my bloodstream, I need to do something with it, right? When that happens, that spikes your insulin, because your glucose blood sugar is up. So that sends a signal to your body like, hey, we need to use this energy, right? We got to do something with it. So your insulin is secreted, then your muscles or your cells shuttle that glucose into the cells and start using it. And if your cells start to sense like we're low on ATP, which is the actual energy molecule that your body uses in all your cells, if it senses that those stores are low, then it uses that glucose and makes the energy right then, right? But if it senses like, hey, we're good, we don't need it. I'm a little late, but I'm just starting my live stream with my alarm. Anyway, so if it senses that your body's good, you don't need any extra, that you don't need it right now, then it goes and it makes other stuff with it, right? Other parts of the cell, and then if all that's good, then it just stores it as fat, right? But that's what we don't want. So basically, what the intermittent fasting does is it helps your body go from energy storage mode into burning mode, right? So you're burning, because when your glucose gets high, right, that glucose, everything in your body, when you break it down, it gets turned into glucose. That's just blood sugar. That's what your body likes to burn for energy, either that or ketones, which are made from fat. But we'll get to that in a moment. All right, so if you are doing something and like you're going a period of time, or you're not eating, right? A typical way that people do intermittent fasting is they have a 16 and 8, where they go 16 hours without eating anything, just like drinking water and stuff like that, and then 8 hours where they have an eating window, right? So something that I started with was eating between 2 p.m. and 10 p.m. And that was just, I would basically wake up, do what I would call fasted cardio, where I just get up and do a brisk walk, where I'm just taking a stroll through the neighborhood. If it's summertime, you can have your shirt off, you can be like, yo, check me out, I'm getting my fasted cardio in, what are you doing, right? And it just kind of helps you psychologically, like knowing that while you're walking, right, you're burning fat for fuel, because you're breathing and you're just taking your time, and that's going to be better for you, just to kind of get in that mode of thinking, hey, you know what, I'm burning fat right now, right? Now, that's not to say, and I don't want to get sidetracked, but that's not to say that you're not going to put on fat later. Like if you go and if you eat too much food later, right, you can't out-train a bad diet. If you eat too many calories for the day, you're still going to store fat. But during the moment, you will be burning fat if you're fasting. So let me sort of like recenter the start. It's my first time doing this in a minute, and I really want to like try to tell you the why behind the what. That's what I really do with my clients is, we get on calls and we actually talk about this stuff. I have documents made so they can read on their own, but I want to start doing some of these live streams just to kind of educate my followers, because I feel like a lot of people aren't intermittent fasting. They're not doing this stuff because they just don't realize the benefits. and it can really help with your longevity. So like I was talking about before with glucose. So when your glucose is elevated, your body stores it in your liver and it stores it in your muscles, right? But the more muscle you have, the more places that your body has to shuttle that glucose and store it as glycogen. So, somebody that eats, or somebody that has more muscle is going to have more places to put that glycogen. So that's why uh, that's why strength training is so good for metabolic health, because it helps to keep your blood sugar levels lower, right? It helps to lower A1C. So if anybody that's ever been told that they're pre-diabetic, right, they're told, okay, your A1C is elevated. Like, yeah, but what is that, right? It's a blood test, and it comes out about every 3 months, and that kind of gives you about an average of what your blood sugar level is. And if it's high, all right, that's not good, because that elevated blood glucose, it damages the cells, it hurts your kidneys, it hurts the cells in your eyes. It can lead to a lot of other stuff, right? It's called insulin insensitivity, right? So you want to be sensitive to insulin. So whenever your body use that as fuel or store it appropriately, you don't want a bunch of glucose sitting in your system all the time. So what intermittent fasting does is it just helps to keep your blood sugar. It helps your body be more insulin sensitive, and it helps to control those blood sugar levels, because it's a clear line where your body's like, okay, I'm getting energy, I'm storing it, right? I'm using it, and then, or like I'm storing it, and then later you go a period of time without eating, right? So 16 hours, right? You stop eating at say 7 p.m., go to sleep, you wake up at 7 a.m. Now it's 7 a.m. But instead of just grabbing a bagel or whatever food, you get up and you do fasted cardio, right? So you walk for 30 minutes, right? So it's 7 a.m., you walk till 7:30, and instead of coming in and smashing some waffles and some pancakes and, elevating your glucose, your blood sugar, then you just drink another thing of water, right? And get to work. And now you may feel hungry, but that's beside the point. So what you'll do is basically push that eating window out another 4 hours. So that would be like 11 a.m. So at 11 a.m., that gets you a 16-hour eating window. And that's going to help you to be burning fat and burning some of that glucose off. Because, when you go to sleep, you're going to sleep, say 10 o'clock, right? Your body is using the food that you ate for dinner, and it's storing that glucose in your muscles as glycogen, right? If you ate too much food for the day, then it's going to store it as fat. But while you're doing your fasted cardio in the morning, your body is burning fat for fuel, and your body has glycogen stored in your muscles and in your liver, and so it can use that for fuel. Like, even if you decided not to eat at 11 a.m., right? If you went out and to go for a run, right? Like maybe you got off work, or you didn't have to work that day, maybe you work from home, right? You get up, you do your fasted cardio in the morning, then you get on your laptop and you do your work. But you think, oh, I got to eat before I work out, but you really don't have to, because your body has energy stored in the muscles, right? So when you're doing your lifts, right, you're doing your pull-ups. I mean, you think about it. I like to think about it like evolutionarily. Like, it wouldn't make sense for a hunter and gatherer back in the day to like just completely, oh, I haven't eaten 12 hours. Oh, let me just die, No, right? You're not just automatically going to lose your muscle. You need to be able to chase down that animal. You need to be able to climb that tree. You need to be able to think clearly so that you can strategize with the other people in your tribe to go after this animal, or to pick these berries, or whatever it is that you're going to be doing for sustenance, for nutrition. So your body actually, it stimulates growth hormone whenever you're fasting for so long, and you're able to tap in. So those insulin levels are low, right? Because you haven't eaten anything after, so it's like 12 hours, 16 hours. And whenever you start, running, lifting weights, whatever, your body taps into that glycogen that's stored, right? And so that also, that's going to fuel your body so that you can do stuff. And, so you're burning glycogen and you're burning fat for energy. And another thing that you do is there's a process called autophagy, right? And autophagy is good for your mitochondria. It's good for your longevity, because basically what it does is it recycles cellular waste, right? So things in the cell that either aren't working as good, or maybe that are old, or maybe damaged, it eats them, basically. It just recycles them. And there's been, studies, and you can Google this, or ask ChatGPT to tell you about the studies about the people that have some type of framework, whether it's religious or just do it, or like cultures where they do like a type of intermittent fasting or a period of fasting, they have lower rates of cancer. And my theory and other people's theory on that is because that's cellular that cellular recycling that's happening right through the process called autophagy, that that's taking out some of those bad cells. I had a really flattering thing happen to me yesterday. I was doing some workouts and recording some stuff in the park yesterday, and this guy was, like, oh, I really love what you're doing. I like the whole setup. And he was gassing me up, but he was telling me, he was like, he asked me how old I was, or it came up, and I was telling him I'm 36, and he was like, what? Like, you're 36? I'm like, yes, sir. And he had a hard time believing it. He was like, bro, you look like you're 18. And I'm like, oh, whatever. Like I said, he's gassing me up, but it was very, very gratifying. But I'm very intentional with the stuff that I do, right? And since I started learning about this stuff in 2014, I've tried to okay, well, let me learn how to fit fasting into my schedule, right? So now, because I used to wake up and eat breakfast just like most people, right? We're taught, and popular culture tells you breakfast is the most important meal of the day, right? You got to start your day with cereal, milk, and eggs, and bacon, right? And you can do that. And you can, if you have fat loss goals, you can eat 3 meals a day and still lose weight, right? I don't try to change people's eating patterns or anything like that. I just provide more about education to my clients, education about the different things that you can do, right? Tell you what I do. And so that's what I want to share with you today. So let me see if I have some notes here prepared. Basically, fasting for fat loss. So now you sort of understand a little bit of the science behind the why, behind the what. Why would you do intermittent fasting? Because there's no magic thing, right? It's not like you're going to lose more weight if you do intermittent fasting. It's not necessarily that. What it is it's more sustainable, right? You're just able to not think about it too much, right? And the less things that you have to use that mental capacity, the less decisions you have to make. That's why it was the guy that started Apple, Steve Jobs, right? He had all these turtlenecks and these jeans or whatever he would wear, just because he had so many decisions to make in his business, right? That he wanted to take that decision fatigue out. That's one less decision he had to make. So if you could just, free up your schedule by saying, you know what, I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat for breakfast. I don't have to plan that out. That's one less meal every day that I have to meal prep, right? So that's how I incorporate it. It's just that's one less thing that I have to do in my schedule. I can just basically I wake up, do intermittent fasting, get to work, maybe do a workout, do something, meditate. I have my book over here, but I do journaling, I do meditating and stuff like that. Anyway, and then you just eat later, so you eat lunch. And whenever you do eat, you want to prioritize whole foods. Like they say, the 80-20 rule, right? Oh, just 80% is the good stuff. 20% you can flub on, but I don't really like that, right? Because 20% is a lot, especially when you care about your health and, you want to do this sooner rather than later. I would say 90 and 10%, you know what I'm saying? So, because 20% you can go over, even with intermittent fasting. If you're eating 2 meals a day, you eat lunch, then you eat dinner. If you have 2 huge meals and you go over your calories, you're still going to gain fat for the day. But it's if you prioritize whole foods and you prioritize eating the protein first to get full, more satiated, that can help you to be on a more sustainable plan, right? To where you're not really thinking about it too much. So you either shop mindfully at the grocery store and you do your meal preps, or you just have the stuff made. So like when you do have lunch, maybe you're having steak and eggs, or maybe you're having some ground turkey and pita bread or whatever. I can't make it up right now, but basically you're having whole foods whenever you do eat, and you're having blueberries and raspberries and stuff like that. And that's and then same thing for dinner, right? You do the same thing for dinner, whole foods. Or if you're going to get at something at like a quick service restaurant, right? You're going to go to Chipotle. So then you would make sure, like, hey, let me get the double meat, get you a bunch of protein in, right? Because you want to hit your protein goals. That's one thing that's also important too, is when you're losing this fat, whenever you're trying to lose weight, in order, if you have a fat loss goal, right? You have a physique goal, you want to keep the muscle that you have, and you want to build new muscle. And there's two things that are going to help you build muscle. There's two things that stimulate muscle protein synthesis. And that's consuming more than 20 grams of protein in one sitting. And that's resistance training, right? And they both increase muscle protein synthesis for different periods of time. I don't want to get too sidetracked on that as sort of a whole nother live stream. But the gist of it is when you lift weights and you train, you're stimulating muscle protein synthesis for about 48 hours. And when you do, whenever you're consuming, 20 grams or more of protein, that stimulates it for a few hours, right? So there's two things that you can have in your favor. So if you're using intermittent fasting to maintain a caloric deficit, right? Because you're just like, hey, this is what I do. I just don't eat breakfast anymore. Then I eat a high protein lunch, a high protein dinner, high protein, low calorie, right? And then, if you're using like a tracking app, like I have my clients log stuff into the Proof of Work Fitness app. And if you're using that, you'll see, okay, I'm supposed to eat 2,000 calories this day. And I had 900 calories for lunch. I had 900 calories for dinner, and I have 200 calories left. What can I eat? Well, you look at, your favorite ice cream that you just love, right? You love your Ben and Jerry's, whatever ice cream, and you eat whatever, however many tablespoons or whatever the serving size is for 200 calories. Now that you want to be mindful of, because, if you're on a plan to lose weight and you're supposed to eat 2,000 calories in order to lose weight, you can eat up to that limit, right? That's the target, right? So if it's, you've used some kind of guesstimate, you have a dietitian, you have a nutritionist, or you just did a calculator online, you can eat up to that limit. You want to go up to that target. You want to get close to that. And if that's your maintenance calories, well, that means you can get up to those calories and then maintain your weight. But if you want to lose weight, you want to be under your maintenance calories. That way your body can use those, the difference. It pulls it from the fat stores, right? And so that's what we do with intermittent fasting, is we just help to train our body to go from energy storage all the time, because we have our insulin is elevated, and it goes to energy burning, right? Burning fat as fuel, burning glycogen as fuel. So I'll probably do this again, because I probably got a little sidetracked, because there's so much information, but it's not that hard. It's not that complicated to implement this in your daily life. It's just about, okay, what am I going to do? Okay, I'm not going to have breakfast. I'm going to eat whole foods, and I'm going to train hard, right? When you do train, I posted a workout today. It's a 5-minute circuit. Basically, you set up one, and you do some squats, right? Just do squats, as many squats as you can do. Like grab something, heavy, or grab a jug of water if you're at home, or dumbbells or something like that. If you're in the gym, then just use a barbell. But you can do that just for 1 minute straight. Do as many as you can, and it's just like a goblet squat or something. And then when the timer goes off, okay, you stop, right? And then when you set another timer, you do push-ups for 1 minute. Just do as many as you can. Just don't stop. Just keep breathing, and then you move on to the next thing. This is a circuit, so you do one after the other. Basically, as you follow the post that I made, it's a 5-minute workout, right? And then that's going to help you. And then so like the next week, you try to add a few reps, or I want you to do it like every other day, 3 to 4 times a week. And you try to add a few reps, just count how many you're doing when you're doing your push-ups. And let's just say you were able to get, 23 push-ups in a minute. right? So the next time when you go to do it a few days later, see if you can get 26, right? Because you're a little bit stronger, you're a little bit faster. And that's a way to implement what's called progressive overload without overthinking, right? And like I said, I know it's a lot of stuff, but it's not that complicated. You just want to train, you want to eat in alignment with your goals, right? Because maybe you're somebody that is trying to build muscle. You're not trying to burn fat, right? Maybe you're a skinny person and you want to put on muscle. Well, then intermittent fasting, you can still do it. You still get those metabolic benefits of the autophagy and stuff like that, and having the lower insulin levels. But it's going to be harder to hit those calorie goals because you only got 2 meals to get to your calorie goals. So you got to be more mindful of that. And so you got to get not creative. Well, you got to get creative. So if you're struggling with that, so that would be another live stream, a different topic. Right now, we're talking about getting down to and maintaining 10% body fat. So that's just a good round number, a goal that a lot of people have, and it seems to most people, because I don't know if you knew this, but there's actually more millionaires than there are people with six packs. Crazy, right? Like, it's 2025. We have AI. We have gyms all over the place. We have literal meal delivery services, and people are still struggling with this, right? Because a lot of times it's in your head, right? You think that you need to eat every so often, right? We're told breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but really, your body has everything that it needs. If you're like a typical American, if you're on a standard American diet, you have plenty of glycogen in your liver and in your muscles. You have plenty of fat on your body that you can use, right? So just a few more things about fasting is you have enough glycogen in your muscles and in your liver. I mean, you have like tens of thousands of calories, I think. Maybe it's not that much. I have to look that up. But you have a lot of calories, like thousands of calories, and your body will burn that, and so you don't have to wake up and get something to eat. You don't have to eat before you go to the gym. It's just not something that you have to do. And sometimes people will say, oh, I'm on a calorie deficit and, I'm feeling weak and stuff like that. Like, if you're really sensitive, you may feel a little bit of a difference, but it shouldn't be enough that really affects you. You should still be able to go in and have a hard workout, right? Even if you haven't ate for 24 hours, right? That's something that you could incorporate as well as like 24-hour fasting. But right now we're just talking about a 16-hour fasting window and an 8-hour eating window. If you haven't tried it, that's pretty much what I stay on. Sometimes I do one meal a day where I just eat within like, I fast for 22 hours and then eat within a 2-hour window. It just depends. It just depends on what I'm doing, what my goals are. And because really I'm trying to maintain and I'm trying to build, right? It depends on what season I'm in. Right now I'm trying to just maintain. But I'm thinking about going into a bulking series season again, where I'm going to put on some more muscle. And when I'm doing that, I'm going to be I probably won't be doing intermittent fasting, just because it's harder for me to get all my calories in 2 meals. So it's really good for maintaining, and it's really good for losing body fat. I'm going to end it there. I think I see some either questions or people joining me, but this is my first time getting this all set up. So my laptop is like way over there and I can't see it. I'm on my camera. Hopefully the quality is better because I'm trying to use my camera rather than my phone. And, I want to try to do this more regularly. And if you guys like this, you have questions for me, let me know. I may post this on my page so you guys can review it later. But let's start from the top, put it all together. Fasting for 10% body fat. You want to do this because it stimulates autophagy, right? It gets your body to, improve your mitochondria, which is the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cells. That's what, does the making of the energy and stuff like that. And yeah, and another thing too that I didn't mention about high fructose corn syrup. So high fructose corn syrup is in a lot of the processed foods. That's why I mentioned you want to eat whole foods, because it doesn't have high fructose corn syrup. So what happens with the high fructose corn syrup is it's not metabolized the same in your body. It doesn't go through the same pathways. And so whenever you eat enough glucose, right, you eat a lot of glucose, your body stimulates and ghrelin. So leptin is a molecule, or is a hormone and it tells your body that you're done eating, that you're full, that you consumed enough calories. And ghrelin is another hormone, and it tells your body that you're hungry, right? And so whenever your body naturally gets these signals, it'll say, okay, lower my leptin, or whenever you eat enough calories from glucose or whatever it is, it senses that it lowers your leptin levels so that you're not feeling or that you feel satiated, right? And that's part of what those weight loss injections do. They make you feel more satiated, so when you do eat something, you don't feel like eating again. You don't feel like hitting that drive-through again. You don't feel like going up for a second plate. And whenever you space that out over a series of weeks, months, then you start losing weight, because all it takes is a few hundred calorie deficit per day to start sustainably losing fat. And you can do that with the weight loss injection. You can do that with extra cardio. You can do that with weightlifting. You can do that with intermittent fasting. You can do that with the South Beach diet, Atkins diet, paleo, keto. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, but it all boils down to eating less calories than what you're burning, right? So that, let's say, this is how many calories it is for your body to maintain your weight, right? If you want to build muscle, you need to consume more than that. If you want, or not, if you want to gain weight, you need to eat more than that. If you want to lose weight, you need to eat less than that. And the difference in these calories comes from the fat stores. That's the goal, right? And it's a little nuanced, and especially as you're just getting started, you can continue to build muscle in this level, right? But you have to be mindful, and you have to prioritize these things that I'm talking about, right? You have to prioritize protein at each meal. You have to do resistance training, right? You have to get plenty of sleep, right? So, but if you do those things, whether you're on a weight loss injection, whether you're on, just a calorie restriction by some type of diet that you're doing, you can do that, right? But it's important to get in enough protein, because your body needs the amino acids that are in protein for, to build the muscle and the tissues. So I'll end it here. I hope you can implement this into your schedule and your life, and it makes things a little easier for you. Hopefully, clear some things up for you and give you some actionable items that you can do. 8-hour eating window, and make sure you get plenty of sleep and all that kind of stuff. Let me know what questions that you have for me in the comments below. All of for more value.